Hi, my name is Thomas Butler, and this is literally the 16th try at sharing my testimony with you. So pray that this is the last one. I grew up in a very, very strong Christian home, and both my parents and my sister are very strong Christians. And I even remember the day when I accepted Christ when I was about 6 or 7, and my sister and I were listening to my mom tell us a Bible story. And at the end, she asked us if we wanted to accept Jesus into our hearts. And I said yes. And I remember because I was sitting on the top of my bunk bed, and my sister was in the bed below me. And that was a big moment for me. But obviously I was six. I was six. The next day, I know what I've done, but it didn't really mean anything to me. So I went through the motions of being a typical Christian kid for the next 5 or 6 years of my life. As I entered middle school and late elementary, early middle school, I started going to Awana and doing all these things with my church friends, and it was a blast. And I have no regrets. And as I got older, I started going to youth group and going on different church retreats and Sunday school and all these different things. So I was doing everything a Christian kid was expected to do and what my parents expected me to do, but I didn't have that personal relationship with God. And part of that was I didn't have a reason to reach out to God. I didn't have that hole in my heart that needed to be filled by God's love, His mercy, His grace, His unending grace. And it makes me think back to this song. I'm not sure who sings it, but if His grace were an ocean, we'd all be sinking. And that imagery is like, I never had that hole, that desire to have a deeper relationship with Christ, because I didn't have parents who were alcoholics, or I wasn't a substance abuser myself, or I didn't have something tragic happen to my friends or my sibling, my sister, or there was no reason for me to cry out to God because I had a pretty comfy life. I had a pretty safe life. But once I got to high school, that all changed. Like I said, I'd gone to a public school for my whole life, and once I got to high school, it wasn't rough, but I was introduced to a lot of things and was around a lot of things that I was not familiar with. The drugs, the girls, the pornography, all these things that I was not familiar with is now all in my face. And it took a lot of those morals that we all have. It was kind of like, no, that's not good. But I didn't really have anything beyond that. Like, I didn't have, God's commandments backing me up, the 10 Commandments backing me up. I was just going off of, that doesn't feel right. Whatever, just ignore that. So, I was going through the motions, essentially. I was, like I said, I was still going to Sunday school. I was still going to youth group. I was still doing the trips. I was still doing all these things. But my sophomore year, I became friends with a girl who was 2 years older than me, so she was a senior. And this girl, who I will dub as Delilah, so Delilah was not a Christian, and I began to talk to her more and more, and I started inviting her to church and to youth group, and she eventually accepted Christ, and this was awesome. And we kind of liked each other, so then we began dating. And as we were going through our relationship, I was trying to uphold her spiritual relationship and, teaching her how to read the Bible, how to pray, all these things that she literally had no idea. So, I was trying to help her with these things, but also try to maintain a romantic relationship. So it was a very difficult balance, and the lines often crossed and bad things happened. And, it was just a very difficult situation. But we remained dating, and she graduated high school, and I just finished my sophomore year. And we still went to, we went to the same youth group, going to the same church, we go to the same youth group. So we went on our World Changers trip, which was new to us because we had a new youth pastor that school year. His name is Hideo Hayworth, and he's also my mentor. And him and his wife Jewel, they decided to take us to a World Changers trip. And they'd been experienced with World Changers because they were from Texas, so being in the South, it was more popular there. And they introduced these missions opportunities to us, and they described it to us. We're like, yeah, let's do it. This sounds so cool. So we ended up going to Bonne Terre, Missouri in the summer of 2014. So that was a completely new experience for us because we'd always done the camps where it was, rock climbing and rappelling, doing all these cool outdoor things and rec games. We'd never gone on an actual mission trip before. We'd done some community service stuff, but we never left to go somewhere new to help people. We were always familiar with, helping our neighbors or mowing lawns or moving rocks, whatever people needed to do. So this was a whole new experience for all of us, myself, Delilah, all of our friends, my sister, all these things. So we were in Bonne Terre, and on the, I believe it was the fourth night, we had a prayer service, and, it was really, really powerful, and anyone will tell you that, but it was very, very meaningful to me because that's when I realized I didn't have a personal relationship with Jesus. I had accepted him, but I left it there. It's like, he stands at the door and knocks, and, if he'll come in if we let him, if we open the door, he'll enter. But it's like I opened the door to him and left him on the doormat. Like I just let him stand there in his shoes. I didn't let him come in and get comfy in my, my house, so to speak. So he was there, but I never, I prayed, I did all these things, and I went through the motions. Like I wasn't, before I meal, I wasn't actually thanking God for my food. I was just saying it because that was routine. I was just saying that to make my parents happy, to look better to my friends, all these things. So that presented challenges because I didn't realize I needed more, that my heart was, yearning for more. So at this prayer service, our speaker was like, what's keeping you from God? If God's here and you're here, what's this middle ground that's keeping you from a personal relationship with Christ? And I was like, it's gotta be, it's my relationship with Delilah. And so this relationship that had gone on for almost a year, and, being a sophomore in high school, relationships that last that long are, kind of a big deal. So, it was, I just began weeping. And that was one of the first times I'd ever cried in front of people, except where, I broke my leg or broke my nose, these different things. That's the first, I just began sobbing and I could not stop. And because I realized what I had to do. And I was talking to Delilah after the trip, and we both agreed that, we were holding each other. It's not that she was keeping me intentionally from a closer relationship with Christ, but that I was uplifting her and holding her higher than God was. Like she was up here and God was down here, and that was my priorities. Family, friends, Delilah, all that up here, and then God down here. So, that was a big problem for both of us. So we decided to mutually end it, and everyone always thinks, when you say mutual, it's never mutual. This, it really was mutual. So we're still really good friends, and we've gone on other missions, and we've done other mission stuff together with our youth group, and it's been great. So now that my relationship with Delilah had ended, I started treating my sister a lot better. We became really good. Like I can honestly say, my sister is one of my best friends, and she's one school year younger than me, so she'll be a junior as I'm going to be a senior here in a few weeks. So we moved into, or I went through my junior year after this Bonne Terre mission trip. After we were in Bonne Terre, I started my junior year, and this was totally new for me because I started reading the Bible in a new way, and like literally what it means. Like King David, he didn't kill Goliath because he wanted, because he would have been the hero. Like he didn't just step out of a tent and be like, oh, I'll kill this guy. He only did it because what was in it for him? A girl. A place at the king's table, tax-free for life, all these money, bank women. It was just, that's the only reason he did it. He didn't do it out of the goodness of his heart. He did it because he was selfish. And once our youth pastor gave us that story, which was one of the first things he introduced to us, I was like, wow, the Bible is real. Like, how many times have I been selfish or greedy? It's like, King David's no better than me. He's not some, perfect human and we see in, the New Testament and Old Testament of people messing up and screwing things up so badly. It's like, how could God even use that to, like, the Apostle Paul, like Saul before, how could he use that to transform Saul to Paul? And Paul's one of the greatest missionaries of all time. Like, seeing that stuff, it's like, he can work in me too. And I kind of pushed away my shame, my guilt on past things I'd done, and was like, started embracing this new relationship with Christ, and like, I could do so much more with him, and so much more with him by my side, rather than me like, I'm gonna do this on my own. Is I'm I get good grades, I have lots of friends, I can do this. It's like, no, I need Christ with me. Nothing else matters. So junior year was really hard for me, and I was faced with lots of situations where I would lose friends and get humiliated in front of people because what I believed wasn't what society was telling people to believe. So I spoke out oftentimes, not shoving it in people's faces, but what I believed and why I believed it. So that boldness that started really coming into my life after this trip was, really profound. And I can gladly say that's one of my one of the traits I'm very blessed to have given to me, is my boldness. And so after junior year, we just got back from World Changers Memphis this past summer in June. So we got back about a month and a half ago. So I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I was like, man, and Memphis was amazing. And so it's like kind of a two-step plan, because lots of political stuff going down now with the Republican nominee and the Democratic nominee, and all these going at each other and all these different things. Like, what's my two-step plan? It was coming to know Christ in a new way in Bonne Terre, and that was incredible. But for Memphis, it was like I had doubt. Excuse me, again, I had pizza for dinner. I had doubt going into Memphis, and it was kind of at the back of my head because, school year was hard, and I lost lots of friends because of my faith, and I didn't have as many opportunities on the sports teams or these different things because, I wouldn't sacrifice church for summer league practice for basketball, or I wouldn't, sacrifice, cursing for the play to have that role, because of the things that I wanted to do to glorify God. I lost opportunities, and, maybe those opportunities weren't opportunities at all. It was just, God kind of shutting a door, shutting a small mousetrap, because those things aren't really important. So, after junior year was over, I was having kind of some doubts, and I was looking ahead to start applying to colleges because I'm someone who likes to prepare for things. So I was already looking at colleges and different universities about my grades and scholarships and all these things. And I was just hitting a wall, and I didn't know what to do. And, with my test scores and things, I could get into lots of different places. My options weren't limited. So I could, it was just a whole new world of decisions. And I was praying for, God to show me which way to go, but he wasn't. And, I didn't have patience. I was not a very patient person then. So I was getting anxious, and I was like, why? So I go to this Memphis in June, like 15th or something like that, middle of June. So we're there, and on that prayer night, these prayer nights are starting to have some significant value to me. I realized what I wasn't consciously aware of is that I was doubting, and doubting God is a very bad place to be. So I was like, wow, what am I doing? And I had another kind of one of those come to Jesus moments, and I was like, God, I'm here for you, I'm laying my heart out for you. And he just poured in with his love and his mercy and his grace. And, I was so on fire for God, and I still am. I see God and I see people in a whole new way. Like, it's just so undescribable how I was feeling and how I feel now. So knowing that God's there is so much more encouraging for me. And I know my testimony is going to keep evolving as I continue through my senior year and I begin college and all these different opportunities with, working and playing sports and being in the plays and musicals and, all these different things I'm involved in. I'll have more to add to my testimony. So it's kind of an unfinished book. But, where I'm at now, it's not safe. Being a Christian is not meant to be safe. I'm reading a book called Jesus Freaks with my mentor, Hideo, Pastor Hideo. And I'm reading about all these people who literally lay their life down. Like one story of a Russian soldier in the Soviet Union, because they're the Soviet or communism, Soviet. I don't know what I'm saying. Communism doesn't allow for religion, and he would not go against his faith. So they made him stand in negative 40-degree temperatures, naked in the middle of the street in the middle of the winter in the Soviet Union. And he would sing there and sing praises, and he would glorify God amidst what was going on around him. And it just blows my mind on how people can be so selfless. And I want to be in a place where that's me. I'm the guy standing in the freezing cold temperatures. I'm the one sitting in a prison cell. I'm the one writing encouragement from some jungle in the middle of who knows where, because my passion for Christ is above everything else. And my favorite verse recently, my favorite verses come from 2 Timothy 2, verses 20 and 21. Now in a great house there are not only vessels of gold and silver, but also of wood and clay, some for honorable use, some for dishonorable. Therefore, if anyone cleanses himself from what is dishonorable, he will be a vessel for honorable use, set apart as holy, useful to the master of the house, ready for every good work. That's what I want to be, a vessel for Christ, and a vessel for world changers, in world changers, a vessel in Canada, a vessel in Africa, a vessel in my small town of Charlotte, which is, right over there. A vessel for Christ, set apart for good works. Like I said, this testimony is going to keep going. It's going to keep building. But what Christ has done in my life in the past 18 years is awesome. And not awesome like, bro, that's awesome, but truly, truly awesome. Thanks, guys, for listening. Praise God.